In the land of pristine beaches and captivating landscapes lies a resilient nation with a tumultuous chronicle of governance, the Philippines. This essay embarks on a historical journey from the era of the revered Jose Rizal to the controversial reign of Rodrigo Duterte to unveil the veiled tales of corruption that have shadowed Philippine leadership across the decades. How has corruption molded the country's political landscape, and what does it mean for its future? The Philippines, during Jose Rizal's era, was under the heavy mantle of Spanish colonial rule. Governance was characterized by a feudal system where the few elite collaborated with colonial rulers, fostering an environment ripe for corrupt practices. This period set the precedent for a governance culture intertwined with corruption, as colonial rulers often turned a blind eye for loyalty and control. The seeds of corruption sown during this era were to sprout a complex tree of governance challenges that the nation continues to grapple with. Post-Spanish era, the American colonial period introduced new administrative structures in the Philippines. This period saw the inception of a more systematic governance, but also brought about sophisticated forms of corruption. The introduction of democratic ideals was marred by the reality of American officials using their power to exploit the archipelago's resources, often overshadowing their role in improving governance. This duality in American policies set a complex stage for future leaders who wrestled between genuine reformative efforts and the lure of corrupt practices inherited from their predecessors. Ferdinand Marcos's tenure from 1965 to 1986 is perhaps the most infamous in terms of corruption. His declaration of martial law in 1972 marked the beginning of a dark era characterized by rampant graft, crony capitalism, and human rights violations. Reports and historical accounts estimate that Marcos and his cronies amassed billions of dollars illegally, a staggering sum that has only been partially recovered by the government. This period serves as a stark reminder of how absolute power can corrupt absolutely, influencing many governance reforms in subsequent years. The 1986 EDSA People Power Revolution was a watershed moment for the nation. It not only ousted a dictator, but also set the stage for rebuilding the nation's democratic institutions. However, the post-EDSA era was not devoid of corruption. Successive leaders struggled with the remnants of the Marcos legacy, each attempting reforms but often falling short in the face of entrenched corrupt practices. This era highlighted the persistent challenge of eradicating corruption despite a renewed democratic spirit. From Fidel V. Ramos to Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, each president brought their philosophy towards tackling corruption. While some strides were made, such as increased transparency in government transactions, each administration also faced allegations of corruption. These years were marked by a cyclical pattern of reform and scandal, reflecting the deep-rooted nature of corruption in Philippine governance. Rodrigo Duterte's presidency began with a promise of drastic change, particularly in combating corruption and crime. However, his term has been controversial, highlighted by both significant policies and troubling allegations of corruption within his administration. The aggressive approach has had mixed results, with some praising the efforts to clean up government and others pointing out the emergence of new forms of corruption under his watch. This administration's legacy will likely be debated for years to come, serving as a critical study for future governance frameworks. The ripple effects of corruption in the Philippines extend far beyond the corridors of power, affecting the very fabric of society. From inadequate public services to eroded trust in government, the consequences are profound and pervasive. Efforts to combat these impacts have been varied, from grassroots activism to institutional reforms, but the journey toward a corruption-free society remains arduous. Understanding these societal impacts is crucial for framing effective responses to the challenge of corruption. Recent efforts to combat corruption in the Philippines have included legislative reforms, anti-corruption agencies, and increased international cooperation. However, the effectiveness of these measures is still a subject of debate. Internationally, the Philippines' fight against corruption is observed with a mix of skepticism and hope, with many international bodies offering support while scrutinizing the country's commitment to genuine reform. This part of the journey underscores the importance of both internal resolve and international support in combating corruption. As this historical journey from Rizal to Duterte shows, corruption in Philippine leadership is an evolving challenge with deep historical roots. The path forward requires a multifaceted approach, strengthening institutions, fostering public engagement, and maintaining relentless vigilance against corruption. The future of the Philippines, therefore, lies not in the hands of a few leaders, but in the collective actions of its people, determined to turn the tide against corruption for a brighter, more just society. Imagine a nation where the echoes of its leaders' actions reverberate through the corridors of time, creating a mosaic of narratives filled with both valor and vice. The Philippines, with its rich history shaped by a roster of leaders from Jose Rizal to Rodrigo Duterte, provides a compelling tableau of how power can be both a poison and a potion. This essay peels back layers of political evolution to scrutinize the pervasive shadow of corruption that has loomed over Philippine leadership, reflecting on its implications and the relentless quest for integrity. Now it's your turn to make a difference. Join the fight against corruption. Stand with us as we strive for transparency and justice. Every voice counts, and yours could be the catalyst for change and be a part of the movement today. Let's build a future where integrity leads the way. Together, we can reshape our nation.